So our session one, as Nasreen has mentioned, is going to focus on the books, particularly highlights and reflections, and maybe zeroing in on some of the stories that were told. Without much further ado, the format is we will have 3 lead-in commentators, and then our panel, each one of the people in our panel will also comment. So we will start with Michael.
So great to see everyone all together again. I can't believe it. Also, just want to say thank you for everything over the years, and hello to everyone out there online. Really great to be connected again. I didn't feel like we were ever disconnected, by the way, even with the pandemic. I'm just going to highlight Fawad's chapter. I'm sure you've all read the book 2 or 3 times by now. No, I'm just kidding. It's okay if you haven't. That's why we're here, to speak to some highlights, and then you can definitely go back and take a look. And as Nasreen said, it's they're short reads, so you can read a chapter a night, or just little pieces here and there. But Fawad's chapter was important for me in reading it because it talked about stepping through a portal, and it's like you enter through a window or a doorway, and you don't know what's on the other side, but it leads to many other portals and windows that change your life. And that's what I think the fellowship program was. He starts off with a quote, and Fawad, I know you're online, so thank you for that chapter. It says, if you want to be successful, you must either have a chance or take a chance. And in a lot of cases, people don't always are given a chance. They're not laid a chance before them, an opportunity. And so the fellowship program was this opportunity to really take a chance. And that's what Fawad said. He said, really, that the UNITAR Afghan fellowship program was his chance he wanted to take. And so he made that conscious choice. And for Fawad and many of the fellows that went through the UNITAR program, it was a chance taken. It was a commitment. It was discipline. It was a full year. It was time away from job, family, friends, to be able to commit to this. And, I would say that it was success achieved based on that chance, taking that risk. And it's difficult to say if the fellows would have still been successful without the program. They were so talented, with so much potential, and so many of you are here. But we think that the program has some proof that it did make a difference. As Sokout and I watched over the years, there were trajectories of careers that sped up. There was higher promotion velocity. People really saw their careers flourish. And coupled with the many stories that we have from all of you and from all the fellows saying that the program really propelled this, gives us some proof that this was true. In Fawad's case, back to the chapter, he had amazing talent and potential already, and he was already successful in the medical field. But what he says was that the program was a catalyst. It was a spark that changed everything. It helped him round out his repertoire, his toolbox of leadership and program management abilities. He talked about leadership and team building, conflict resolution, coaching and facilitation skills that he had some before, but not to the level of what the program gave him. And what he also said was he was able to apply it professionally, but also at home. So it changed his home life. That's pretty significant. And what Fawad did say in the chapter was the velocity in his career was definitely increased through the program. At the end of every program, we like to summarize with certain words. And one of the things I always said over the 14 years was that I challenged every one of the fellows to craft their leadership legacy. What legacy do they want to leave? And here we are, fast forward years later. And I would say you have to lead now. You have this leadership ability. You know how to do it. It's a gift. It's a blessing or a curse. You can decide to use it for bad, or you can use it for good. And hopefully we want you to choose it for good. And so many of the fellows did, right? By far, all of them really. And what we'd say was you have tools from this program. We want you to have greater and greater responsibility, higher levels of leadership to be attained, so you can have greater impact on the world. And that's what our fellows have done. If you look at it over the years, this is where we are. And it's continuing. So Fawad walked through that Afghan fellowship portal, that window, that doorway, and he took a big chance, like all our fellows. And Fawad, I remember one of my favorite photos is you and I standing together at the end of the fellowship program, wearing traditional Afghan garb, because the Afghans gave us gifts, and some of it was traditional Afghan gowns, and they were beautiful. And we were just beaming and glowing with you having gone through that fellowship program. So happy and proud, and that it all worked out. And you walked away, armed with leadership abilities, tools, and confidence, like I mentioned. And then you took many other chances that you talk about in your chapter. You felt you had the confidence to take those risks after you went through the first portal. And that has led to an amazing career and trajectory and personal life that continues today for Fawad. You also became a consummate servant leader. We talked about servant leadership a lot, and it's really about leading for the good of others and not for egos and power trips, but really to help others achieve impactful goals in the world. And you've proven that, as have our other fellows. So I'd say Fawad in his chapter is an example of many of our fellows and what they've done over the years. What's not said in the chapter, just to conclude, is I think what pops out of the pages that's not written is Fawad talks about how it's changed really his mind, his heart, and his soul. He was able to sharpen his mind and his intellect around leadership. He grew his heart with empathy and courage and caring. And he deepened his soul to the cause, to something bigger than all of us, something he could dedicate himself to and be loyal to in making a difference in the world. So the Afghan Fellowship Program, I think, has left this lasting impression on Fawad and the fellows, and really all of us to this day. And so I'd just like to say thank you, Fawad, for your chapter, but thank you to everyone who's been involved, the fellows who've carried forward on their leadership legacy, but also everyone in this room and everyone online who contributed to this program. Every once in a while, in our careers and our lives, we find something that's really magical and special. And this is it.
Thank you, Michael. I'll now pass the mic to Lorne.
Greetings, everybody. If you don't mind, I'm going to refer to my notes as we go through, just so that I don't miss out on important words that were shared with us through the anthology. I'll start with the word compañeros. This is a word I learned early in my international career working in Latin America about how a project or program is a journey that will only ever reach the goal in the company of others. Others who only discover what they share and are capable of being by walking together. Compañeros comes from Spanish words, but in English translation refers to the idea of accompaniment in a process, as well as companions, meaning those with whom we walk. I want to acknowledge the 5 fellow contributors to the anthology to help me get to the point I'd like to share with you. The passion and elegance of these 5 women companions, among the many others, of course, over the 15 years and 500 colleagues and friends who made all or parts of this journey, have told me at least something important about the fellowship. Let me borrow some of their words to tell you about, and I hope they will forgive me for not necessarily including all of the context in which they made those words. The Afghans helped us remember our idealism. They also touched our lives in practical ways with their intelligence, their humor, their hospitality, the way they could sing and recite poetry at every opportunity. They inspired their mentors and their Hiroshima hosts with their dignity, their resilience, and warmth, their love of learning, and their wide-eyed admiration for the discipline and technological prowess of their hosts, Japan. Our bonds with them were sustained over the years, not by pity or mere sympathy, but by empathy. Those are the words of our matriarch, Nazreen Azimi. Next, we complemented each other. We became each other's support and strength. And most importantly, we became lifelong great friends. In the whole process, one cannot ignore the role of our coaches and mentors, their guidance, support, and in many ways, who helped us become a successful team. In the final workshop in Hiroshima, each team presented their joint project in front of fellow fellows, coaches, mentors, and an external audience. I would say it was an opportunity to actually present months of hard work and professional development, demonstrate leadership skills and how we had come along as a team. I loved the fellowship for what it offered to me. Besides learning and enhancing my skills, it gave me the opportunity to make new friends and to expand my network. That was from part 2, the women of the fellowship, the full package from learning to professional networking, from Najla Sabri, who was with us in 2007, 8, and 9. And then for Miriam Kasmanavi, who was with us in 2015 and 2016. She said, we developed a sense of connection. I completed the fellowship with the feeling that I was not alone in my journey, but a robust support system, including the mentors, coaches, and other fellows. They all joined the fellowship from all walks of life with diverse backgrounds, experiences, and personalities. Team diversity seemed to me like a weakness in the beginning. It did not give me much needed motivation. However, to my surprise, the team's rapport and performance were phenomenal. I was overwhelmed by the harmony created, by the teammates of different ages, genders, nationalities, and ethnicities, creating such a beautiful and mesmerizing whole. From my colleague and friend who I noticed was online, Jennifer Hatfield, who noted it was the experiential learning in Hiroshima that strengthened resolve and focused fellows on resilience, rebuilding, and hope. It was in Hiroshima that fellows deepened their sense of shared solidarity. So many of the fellows spoke of the need to seek peace and were impressed with how Japan took the responsibility of fostering peace globally. And finally, 4 pillars of the meaningful life: belonging, purpose, transcendence, and meaning. And we can create lives of meaning by building something for all the pillars in our lives. I would like to submit that the Fellowship for Afghanistan, through its existence, delivered the power of meaning by giving 500+ community members a sense of true belonging, joint purpose, transcendence to a higher reality that was life-changing for many, and helped the AF community develop a narrative about its time together. These were Humara's words in the introduction chapter, where she uses Emily Smith's book on the power of meaning to describe the experience of so many of us in this fellowship. So in the end, it was many incredible Afghans who never felt like objects of project goals to me. The incredible Japanese partners who are our benefactors, hosts, and storytellers. The external resource people who came from many distant places and who were sent on our path by the UNITAR as companions. Together, we took many detours. We overcame obstacles together. We laughed and we celebrated together. We sometimes diverged from one another, but our time together built trust. And from that trust, we found strength, not only together, but also in our own individual minds and hearts. I think we're all better people for having been Afghan Fellowship compañeros. The impact is not just 500 people, it's 500 people to the power of 500. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Sokout now. Sokout, can you get the mic?
Assalamu alaikum, good morning and good afternoon. Very happy to see you face to face and online. I'm highlighting Kamawi's piece of writing. In fact, he is starting. In fact, he was an excellent professional. He never needed any kind of reasons to stay engaged. And for this reason, I just selected his topic. And He's starting by giving credits to UNITAR for the knowledge he gained and for the promotion as an HR director within the Ministry of Finance, the important point of his professional life. And in fact, he was inspired by the good messages and words of Dr. Umar Zakhirwal, the former finance minister. He was telling there has been lots of investment in terms of training in Afghanistan with no good result. But UNITAR program was a result-oriented investment, which helped and enabled the trainees to go far destinies and have lots of achievements. And the other issue, Kamavi said, focused, he was telling that fellowship not only presented professionals in society, but it also produced engaging community. This is something we really needed and need in Afghanistan. So the trainees, the fellows, they emerged as social capital to have a social contract as an active citizen to establish social cohesion. This is something we really needed in Afghanistan. And then this was the reason he not only the fellowship, he struggled and he tried to propose some other programs for the Ministry of Finance and the other entities just to be benefited from the UNITAR. Of course, the legacy was the fellowship. So what he did, he proposed some customized technical programs for different units within the Ministry of Finance, some program for Mustafis, for budget department, for revenue departments, and also he initiated 3 cycles of master degree programs. So this was one of the big achievements, of course. Once again, this credit goes to the fellowship. And finally, I would like to mention when the master degree program was announced, it was the second year. I still remember there were lots of medias, people, they were accusing former finance minister and also we say for investing lots of money on Ministry of Finance staffs, but the ministry itself was losing human resources. But the minister and also Kamavisa was telling everyone that it is totally fine if we lose our human resources whom we invested on them. If they go to the other ministry, if they go to any UN agencies or international organizations, still they work for Afghanistan. And if they go out of Afghanistan, they will be proud of them because they will work for the other people and they will have at least good positions and we will proud of them. So, and I was in Kabul just, and I have a chance to meet Kamaviset. And of course, he said hello to everybody, and he told me this is the good time, still the fellowship. If UNITAR can do anything, if Ms. Nasreen Azimi, if she can do anything, because we would like to be engaged. If it is Green Legacy Hiroshima, if still it is fellowship, anything, because this is something we raised. And we know the values and we would like to keep these values. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to just make 4 points about what was special and what is special about the Afghan Fellowship Program. First, the academic program is a unique program in many ways. It started with some of the theories of leadership and how a person can develop their skills and experience to be a follower and a leader, and develop their capacity to work within institutions, influence others, and influence themselves. Combined with that theory was the practice, and there were always exercises in which people were taking practical action to show themselves and their fellows and the members of their team that they could both follow and lead and work together. And this was an important part of the team building exercise. But added with that, there were several elements that really are unusual. A substantial portion of every course really focused on key issues in Afghanistan. So it was not directed simply at the human development, but it was really about the issues in Afghanistan that each of the individuals felt were important to do. And that focus and the selection of topics that were going to be addressed really raised the significance of the fellowship, because there was an effort to really deal with tasks that needed to be done. And that became the focus. So in each class, there were proposed ideas that could be implemented in real time, and so many of them were implemented. What an unusual class that results in outcomes that work in the field. Okay, this is unheard of. I've been part of a leadership program at the University of Texas now for 10 years. We don't have any projects that are implemented by the members because the concept isn't there. In other words, here the concept was something ought to be accomplished, and it ought to be accomplished now. And it was accomplished now. So this is a special element of the Afghan Fellowship. Now, a second element that was special, and you're not going to find it anywhere else, was the folks involved with the teaching and the mentoring. You don't find academic or leadership programs or any kind of programs that basically the people who are teaching and the people who are mentoring, and they come from all over the world, are doing it as volunteers. Okay, unheard of. And their commitment of time and preparation and substance. This was a very unusual expectation and accomplishment. And what made it even more difficult is that each year we changed. The program changed. There were new focus. Every single instructor was modifying what they were doing because the curriculum evolved to do a better job this year than we did last year. So all of these people volunteering, making all this effort, traveling, teaching, participating, relating and developing friendships with each other and with all of the fellows. This level of involvement, this level of volunteerism, you can't find it. It doesn't exist. It couldn't have happened. Okay, but it did. Okay. A third element that is special are the 500, and I think the numbers are more than 500. Okay, you know them better than I do, but I think they're more than 500. The Afghan fellows. Now, this took, and we can see it in perspective going back there now of what's going on in Afghanistan. This took real courage to join, okay, to attempt to be able to join, get approval to participate from your institution, recognizing that there would be physical, emotional, other kinds of risks. How many persons were challenged by their own institution for misuse of this, misuse of that? I mean, it was not for the faint of heart to become a person nominated for the program, to participate, to become involved as a mentor. I mean, all of these things, it took a special person to want to do it and to then be able to invest not only themselves during the fellowship, but for so many years following this level of commitment. Okay, and there is no question that all of the participants and all the mentors and all the teachers, their lives were changed. Their understanding of themselves, their confidence about their capabilities, and their hopes for their future and for Afghanistan's future this was a very special element that hard to believe that it occurred. It did occur. I think also I'm going to end with a fourth element, and that is really for Nasreen and Humera, for whom this became such an important part of both of their lives. I mean, when you had the original idea in 1996 of thinking of doing something, or not 2002, 1996 was to get in New York, but when this was ludicrous as an idea. Okay, absolutely ludicrous. Okay, to attempt to do something in that context, or just after the U.S. got involved, and to have seen this through with all of the financial difficulties, all of the institutional, internal and external difficulties, with all of the problems with the people, and all of the administrative and legal and other issues. This was a 20-year labor of love. It's hard to believe that anyone would have the patience to carry on with this. It's amazing. I mean, Michael and Lorne, you're amazing, but they are beyond belief. And I think, and this is an important element of having that backbone and that commitment and that resolve that it would not stop. There is no question that this has had an important impact. I think if this were pitched to the current Afghan government, they might even go for it. They might even go for it because the concept, they might be open to it. I don't know. I'm just tossing that out. But I think the changes that were made in each of the participants, the students, the mentors, the teachers, and the families. See, this is something that if we did a case-by-case of evaluation, the families have all changed. Okay, so Sokout talking about even his family, he and I haven't talked about it, okay? But that those are things that would have changed people's perspective. This is a great success, and thank you for making it move forward.
Yes. So after David, I think we'd like to invite Sohail Kaakar, who's online.
Yeah, okay. So what a day. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. I'm speaking from DC, but I just feel I'm there. I'm sitting in one of the chairs out there in that room in Hiroshima. I wish I was there. I wish I could make it. But anyways, I would like to also say Eid Mubarak to those who celebrate. And Eid means happiness and joy. And what a day. So today is my Eid, and it's a great honor and pleasure for me to be in this event. And as I was reading the book, it kind of like started talking to me. And as I was looking at the photos, it made me so emotional, like the memories, the treasure that all of us carry as a community. So my take today is on the introduction, from Humera Kamal, In Pursuit of Meaning. In my view, what Humera is covering in the introduction, I think Lorne touched on the core of the introduction, the 4 pillars of power of meaning. So I don't want to repeat it and I echo what he mentioned. But Humera, like in the introduction, she has divided her thoughts into 3 categories, and she's talking about the status quo when the fellowship started in Afghanistan 18 years ago, and then she refers to why it was important to have this fellowship, and then she talks about the fellowship as a window of opportunity by defining the opportunity as static status quo, Omera, I believe, talks about the fellowship itself not as a tool or a methodology, but as substance, content, and a whole lot of thinking process. So she kind of connects the UNITAR fellowship and the structure into several key aspects that I would like to briefly mention here. The first thing is, of course, the bonds, the belongings, the souls that got together around a shared purpose, the not only excellent professionals, but also people who cared for Afghanistan, who are kind, and who really had the dedication and commitment to help us as Afghans, and that purpose spread into the entire community. The second thing Omera touches in her introduction, in my view, is actually the process itself, the architecture, the process, and how it really tied into the commitment from everybody in Hiroshima, in Kabul, in Abu Dhabi, and elsewhere. And I should say that she mentions about the commitment of the Afghan fellows when they were stuck in traffic jams, during bombings, explosions, but they still made it to get online or get into Khyber Hall of Ministry of Finance and participate in the program. Similarly, from mentors, Umaira mentions a really heart-touching point, and she says that some of the mentors had to wake up in the middle of the night to be in the program. Some of our mentors from different countries in different time zones, they had to travel for the video conference facility to participate. When Omera talks about the other side of the opportunity that was indulged into UNITAR fellowship, I believe she talks about how the process created the narrative. And it was about change agents, the fellows to become change agents. I did mention about the bonds. She also talks about the depth of intellectual involved in the fellowship. People from across the globe with diverse, rich experience, knowledge, and the best souls. So that really made the substance of UNITAR. The key thing Omera touches is the bigger horizon for learning. The scope that UNITAR involved in terms of the content of the learning that Professor David Eaton and others also touched upon it. It was eye-opening, and I'm one of the examples, and I really appreciate and I acknowledge and I cherish that I had the opportunity and the chance to be part of UNITAR Fellowship. So it was not only one-way learning. The UNITAR Fellowship throughout 18 years was a mutual two-way learning process. For me, it was transformative. For me, it was life-changing, if I give my own example. And I've learned a lot. And the opportunity for the growth, whether it was leadership, servant leadership that Michael Ford touched, whether it was change management, and whether it was the other aspects of the curriculum that UNITAR Fellowship had. The other moments are the opportunity for us to explore Hiroshima, to explore Japan, and enjoy the beauty of the people of Japan, the beauty of the hospitality, and also the warmth, the opportunity to connect, as Mariam has mentioned, the sense of connections, to connect with such great people, And I sincerely thank and I'm grateful for the opportunity that I met, learned, and made friendships with the UNITAR community. So I treasure it as one of my best social capital, as Sokout pointed out, referring to Komari's take on the fellowship.
Thank you. Thank
Going
you
to
so
listen to
much.
the others. Thank you, Maya. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So I am now going to pass the mic to Rama.
I'm just going to quote from people, and so that I don't start speaking and get tears. Michael said, by far the greatest magic in the program was created by Afghans themselves. They've had war for over 40 years. And yet they retain their optimism, humor, and dedication to bettering themselves. They prove their discipline, humility, and resilience as a people, wanting to rise from war to give better lives for their families and their nation. They're also very gracious, showing tremendous gratitude for anyone who helped them learn. I think everybody has talked about the traffic jam that they would come in, and I've gone through it feeling frustration that people were not on time, and then realizing that they had actually come through bombing to come and attend the program. They were always a true inspiration, and developed nations around the world can learn from their determination to make the world a better place. And I strongly believe that with that kind of determination and resilience that the Afghans had, it will hope, what do you say, Nasreen, always? Hope it stings eternal. Yeah, it will happen. And the Afghans would reward their instructors and the UNITAR staff with gifts, from handicraft and jewelry to hats and robes. Michael talks about a Hamid Karzai colored and patterned long robe that he wears from time to time. I'm so proud to share that this is what they gave me. And I made it into a skirt, and I wear from time to time with so much pride. I think one of the big concepts that Michael talked was servant leadership, which was not in other programs. I've also been part of corporates, and this is not something that people talked about. And you could see that how Sokout took it upon. We mentioned it to everyone that this is the kind of servant leadership that you see. I mean, Sokout was the person on the ground for in Afghanistan. He created relationships with the civil service division and each ministry. He was responsible for promoting the program, raising funds, recruiting participants, and interviewing. He also served as a manager and a tour guide for all the trips that the Afghans took, helping them with their passports, visas, crossing borders, even with shopping. All the women fellows would go to him if they needed any help. And the women on the program, where, the goal was to have at least 10% women in each program, they're not being permitted to go to school by the Taliban regime, and the girls were just starting to attend schools. Many were educated in schools in neighboring countries when living there as refugees, and others in Afghanistan. And we know, as some of the ARPs and coaches told us, that they ran underground school for girls, risking their lives. And I'm so proud that what they achieved was nothing short of miraculous. We had so many women who were senior people in the government. We had at least 2 women who were from the program who became directors. There's Mariam online, who's flourishing in the US. I mean, she went with such great difficulty. She managed to escape and is in the US and doing so well. You've heard from Mariam, you will be hearing from her. Yesterday, I'm just going to read. Lima, the other director, I'm in touch with many of the women in Afghanistan. I asked her, suddenly it struck me, and I messaged her last night to ask, what was the program for you, Lima? And she said, actually, that fellowship changed my life. It really enhanced my confidence, and I learned a lot, not only from the contents of the workshops, but the whole fellowship. It was one of the best memories of my life. It was a great combination of so many types of experience, knowledge, and skills, plus making friends, having fun, and returning fresh, full of lifetime memories and skills to your homeland. That kind of, you don't get that kind of experience from many different things. And I'm so confident knowing what the women, the strong women of Afghanistan, I'm sure that they will persevere and they will be able to really do well later. I'm just going to end by something that Sharapia wrote. I think few people can say that they met such a wonderful group of people together in one spot and at one time. Somehow the fellowship gathered all the best qualities of very different people, and it's they who made it strong and long-lasting. Without dedication, passion, and energy put by many in the fellowship, it would never have achieved what it did. I'm so glad that all together we build a strong fellowship community, and I hope that the community will stay together despite time and challenges. I fully believe that. Michael added later that overall, while I gave to the fellowship over the years, I got way more in return. The greatest gift I received was my interactions with the Afghans, the other leaders involved in the program. It's the friendship, connections, and memories that we shared that live in my heart and mind. Sharapia added that the fellowship was a great life school. It allowed me to learn many lessons which have helped me be more open, passionate, patient, flexible, and better understand people from different cultures. I completely echo that, and it gave me much more than what I gave. And I played a really small part compared to all the stalwarts here. And from a very typical corporate professional, I trained, I realized my strengths. I went on to train and become a coach, and that's what I do. And I feel that's my strength, and that's what I love doing, to be working with people to understand and enhance their potential. I have all of you to thank for that. Nasreen, Humaira, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Or thank you, Ram. All right. I would like to ask Fawad to make his comments. Dr. Fawad Akbari.
Great. Thank you, Humaira Jan. Just checking the sound. Can you hear me clear? Okay, great. So I see thumbs up. Wow. Well, first of all, good morning to those who are in Hiroshima. Good afternoon, good evening for those of us who are in the other parts of the world. It's past 9 p.m. for me, so it's evening here. Well, I can't express my feeling now, that the feeling of being back with my UNITAR community after many years. I've had the pleasure of staying in touch with some of you in this event today, but some others as well. But after many years, at least 6-7 years, having the opportunity to be in one space. So it's really like a mix of many feelings. So great to be here. It made my Eid double Eid. So Eid Mubarak to all of those who are celebrating. When Humaira Jan asked me to speak today and reflect on one of the book chapters, and as I went through various chapters of the book, and I said, well, I'm going to talk about this. And when I read the next chapter, and I said, well, actually, I'm going to talk about this one. And then as I went through the book, and I was really difficult to make a choice. Many of those authors and contributors are my friends, including some of the faculty and founders of the program that I proudly consider them as friends now. So I thought maybe I should take a different approach to my reflection, and then just to see what are some of the common themes that emerge from the book. So I'm mindful of time, so I'll focus on 3 themes that kind of stand out for me. First of all, the power of international collaboration when it is done right. As I get more immersed in global development and humanitarian assistance programs, I became more of a critic of the sector because of its colonial history and its inequity and other issues that exist in the sector. But as I was going through the book and I was reflecting on the chapters in relation to that concept in back of my mind, I was just telling to myself that isn't this the kind of development that we should all do in developing countries? I mean, that was a kind of a self-reflection for me, because now I'm in a position that my decisions can make difference. So why, and then the other part of that reflection is that why Afghanistan Fellowship Program was is or could be a case study or a model. A number of factors. Others have talked about them, and the book is kind of full of reasons for it. A few that I noticed, of course, the founders of the program and many of the faculty either have had the lived experience in some of the similar contexts like Afghanistan, or had through passion and dedication to the cause. It was more than another commitment or another job for them. It was a true passion and commitment to something big and important. The other thing was kind of the balance between local and global. That's something that we all struggle. I struggle with that in my current job. How to kind of advance the global agenda of local or localization, but at the same time to also bring the global perspectives. And Afghanistan Fellowship Program did that really well by leveraging the capacity, the passion and enthusiasm of coaches, mentors and ARPs and so on, but also the intellect and leadership of Sokout as a leader of the program locally, who has brought so even to date the local perspectives to the program. So he was a mirror, and on whom the program has continued to reflect. So for me, that's really a key factor in terms of success of the program. The second theme that stands out is the theme of togetherness. Others call it community. We could call it community. We could call it common interest, but togetherness, because even like today, and of course it's reflected many times in different terms and different words in the book, that while we were physically apart, whether we were in Hiroshima or in Kabul or elsewhere, or in Calgary or elsewhere, we were together in the spirit and in the cause and in the purpose of the program. That really bonded us, and that's why I feel I'm reconnected with my family today because of that togetherness. And the third theme that really stands out is, well, I should say that as much as this is really a painful thing to say or to feel, and that's the brain drain that happened over the past many years, but more so after August 2021. So, but in my view, for the program, it is still a win that the alumni of the program now contribute to human development, to global development in a larger capacity. Many of those leaders who actually now contribute globally are on this call, like Dr. Sabar Pardes here is, and many others from the fellowship program work with Government of Canada, and we live in the same city here in Canada, in Ottawa. They work with Government of Canada, and they oversee bilateral, multilateral partnerships that have impact globally, including some on Afghanistan as well. Others work in the US. Someone mentioned Mariam John and others who work in leadership positions in the outside Afghanistan. Some chose to stay in Afghanistan. My friend Nasrullah Uriah, who stayed in the country, and he's now the Chief Executive Officer of Aga Khan Health Services. he was a program officer when he joined the program. So he has national impact now. And so the program he runs delivers health services in 5 provinces of the country. So the program, while brain drain has happened, that was a painful experience. But for me, the program, this is still a win for the program, that the impact has gone now beyond Afghanistan. Hopefully things would change and some of us go back and have even bigger impact nationally there. But we do have global impact. Servant leadership is now synonymous to my name in my workplace, in my previous workplace, and even in my new workplace. Thanks to Michael Force, who introduced me to that concept, and I read. And I have books here behind me. At least half of those books are about servant leadership that I continue reading and learning about. So this is the impact of the program. So I'm going to stop here just in the interest of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Fawad. Very nice. Now I'd like to request Jennifer Fox to join us.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, I can't. Okay, good. I was like, I can't see you. So, wow, this is just, like everyone else has said, it's almost unreal. I can't believe we are all here virtually, you all in person. This is just wonderful. And you are a family. And I mean, Fawad, when you said for mentors or any of us that help support this, that this had to be a true passion, yes, 100%. This has always been a true passion of mine. It's funny, just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about the program and I said, like I say so many times, this was by far the best thing I ever have done in my career in international development. And it is somewhat ironic because it was as a volunteer. I didn't even get paid. It's incredible to be with everyone. It's incredible to hear from each other. And wow, Nazreen and Humaira, thank you so much for making this event possible, for everything you've done, and really just for this experience. Because again, just like everyone has said, I think us mentors always feel like we got more out of this than we ever put in. So I think that's just, kind of a across the board theme. So I took a slightly different approach on this session because when Humaira asked, for me to do this, I kind of, like someone else had said, it was a little overwhelming because there's so many excellent chapters and so many fantastic stories. But my thought was, I've heard many of your stories because I very luckily know many of you personally. So I thought a different approach might be to actually dive deep into some of the chapters that were written by fellows and coaches that I didn't know as well. Because in that sense, I got to hear new stories and get some new perspectives and really get re-inspired. Because like I say, many of you already kind of knew your stories. So as I went through this process, I really found 2 chapters that stood out to me. And that was Abdul Nasser Nazari's and Zainalabuddin Hamid's. I'm going to call him Z Hamid. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes just to kind of reflect on both of their chapters and kind of some of the things that really spoke to me. A lot of them are going to be kind of themes we've already heard, but I think it never hurts to kind of reiterate some of these things because I think they are really, really, truly important. So starting with Nasser, just even the title of his piece, and we've already heard this word, I think, 5 times, transformational experience. I think for so many of us, that's exactly what this has been. So for me, just his title was profound. I've always thought of this as a transformational experience for myself. I always hoped it was a transformational experience for fellows. We've already heard that from a few people this evening, but it's something I think really powerful when it's someone you don't really know very well and you haven't gotten to know them, to see that this was for them. So what that kind of gave me a thought of is that it's a theme. It's not, it's not just the few friends or the people I know from UNITAR that have had a transformational experience. I think if we could go back and interview alumni, I think we would see that this was across the board a profound experience for so many people. One of the things I really liked about Nasser's piece was that he admitted that he didn't even know what UNITAR stood for. He didn't really know anything about the fellowship. He just felt that he was really called to apply. He just thought this felt like something that was really right. And I liked that because I had a similar experience. When I learned just a very little bit about the fellowship from David Eaton, many, many years ago. And whatever it was, Dave, that you said, something just clicked in my brain. And I said, wow, I want to be part of this. And it truly did feel like a calling as well. So to me, when I read that about him, I thought, yes, exactly. That's exactly how this experience felt to me. Like just something ordained, that was meant to be by the universe to be part of such an amazing experience. The other thing I really liked that Nisar talked about, and we kind of mentioned this already, is this idea of paying it forward and sharing his experience and knowledge from the fellowship with others, which to me is huge, right? We kind of just said this, that when you think about, we'll say 500 plus participants, that it's not just 500 plus, right? It is all those people that maybe share these ideas and thoughts with other people. So I took a moment, I thought about it, and I said, if you had every single fellow share even just one experience, one skill they got out of this, that those values and skills that the fellowship has tried to instill over all those years could be spread exponentially. And I think it has been. I think that's what we see through the book, the themes through the book. I think that's what we hear through the stories. And I think hopefully, as we like to talk about, this isn't over. This is still going, right? I mean, these skills, these experiences, they can continue to be shared, in perpetuity, really. And then kind of in this same vein, Nasser wrote that he really wished that the UNITAR Fellowship was an opportunity for more working Afghan professionals. And he saw himself as the lucky one, right? That he had this opportunity to have this amazing experience. But he did wish in the future that there were more opportunities like this. And I have to say, I've always thought that in the back of my head, especially some of you know that I worked in the Ministry of Finance in Afghanistan briefly with the US Treasury Department. And I met so many people, especially young women, that I thought, wow, they could completely flourish in a program like UNITAR. And unfortunately, their opportunity didn't come. But, for everyone that has had the opportunity, from Nasser's story, from, Kaakar, and Fawad, from everybody, and all the other stories I've read, it's so clear that this has been very much, a life transforming experience for so many people. And again, I think having this book, I think somebody had said earlier, maybe we're not doing enough to tell the stories and get this out there, that this program really has made a difference. And yes, totally, it was worth it, as the question was asked. Just kind of on that same theme with Z Hamid, one of the things I thought I really liked about what he wrote about, because I'm kind of a technical person, as some of you know, is that with development work, so much of development work, because I do it now, for a living, is about outsiders coming up with ideas and concepts and even defining what problems are in a community, in a country, whatever the parameters are. And one of the first things I saw in Hamid's piece that really spoke to me was he said that the program, it broadened his perspective, allowed him to take a deeper look into his own country's failings and what needed to be fixed. And to me, that is such a key theme of the fellowship, this idea that it was Afghans identifying the issues in their ministries, in their communities, in their countries, whatever it happened to be, and Afghans developing solutions to those problems. To me, that is what sets the fellowship aside from so many other international development initiatives, not just in Afghanistan. I would say across the board in most countries. There are a few efforts like this in the work I do now, but it's few and far between. So I always think of this as such an incredibly important part of the fellowship, that it was very much about Afghans coming up with solutions to solve their own problems. Then, of course, using that as a way to teach and learn leadership and project management skills. And Hamid does talk about the fact that it was kind of unfortunate that he noticed that that government ministries didn't take on these types of tools. That wouldn't it be great if different government ministries, whether it was back then or even today, started actually implementing needs assessments and actually, looking at going out and discussing what true needs were in different communities and different places, et cetera. And again, working from that ground level up to develop these solutions. So I really liked that as well. And then the last thing about Hamid's piece that really spoke to me, because again, thinking about the long-term impact of the fellowship, he talks about how he was able to take these skills and these experiences, things like learning how to do needs assessments, learning team building skills, and then used all of that to basically build an incredibly successful business. And I loved that idea because it just shows that people were using this skill set and these experiences outside of, maybe just their regular jobs, or just the idea that these practices are continuing. And I think anybody that teaches and trains knows that one of the most wonderful things to ever find out is maybe a year later, or 2 years later, 3 years later, that somebody is still continuing those practices. And when I read Z. Hamid's chapter, that's what spoke to me really powerfully, that he continued to use these lessons learned. So that's really all I have, as I think we're probably close to time. Again, thanks to everyone. And it's just so great to see everybody. And this is just an incredible experience. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you so much. This is perfect. I'd like to now hand the mic to Nasreen.
Thank you, Humaira John. Thank you, Jennifer, and everyone for making us weep. I'd like to give the floor to one of the pillars actually of the Hiroshima office. And I would say she's the first person from Hiroshima Prefecture whom I met in New York and in Hiroshima before the office was ever created. She remains unchanged, looking unchanged. It's Mariko Nishizawa. She's a director now at the prefecture. And she couldn't attend in person because the Hiroshima Prefectural Assembly is in session, and the instruction for staff when the assembly is in session that they have to be on hand. But thank you, Mariko-san, for joining us, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Nasreen. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Well, from Hiroshima Prefecture Office, I'd like to send a word of congratulations for the publication of the book, UNITAR Hiroshima Fellowship for Afghanistan, an anthology, which compiles the results of the Afghanistan Fellowship Legacy Project, as well as the 20th anniversary roundtable of the UNITAR Hiroshima office. I first met Ms. Nasreen Najimi in 2001 when she was the head of UNITAR's New York office. It was when the discussion surfaced out that a new UNITAR branch might be established in Hiroshima. The following year, a part of the preparations, I was in charge of a workshop conducted by UNITAR and Hiroshima Prefecture as a trial. And that is how we came to work together. After the success of the workshop, and thanks to Ms. Ajimi for taking the leadership role in an intensive preparation period, the Hiroshima office of UNITAR opened its door in Hiroshima 2003 as the only UN organization in Chugoku and Shikoku regions. Hiroshima was so excited to hear the news that Ms. Nasreen Najimi would then take office of the UNITAR Hiroshima office as well. In retrospect, the UNITAR Hiroshima office was destined to provide assistance globally to reconstruction once they designated Hiroshima as their hometown. As you might have sensed during your stay, Hiroshima certainly has achieved a great deal of recovery from ashes. Indeed, Hiroshima is a place that not only preserves and conveys the horrors of the atomic bombing, but also proudly attests and invites to share the confidence in the reconstruction and hope for the future. In the past 2 decades, the UNITAR Hiroshima office has energetically expanded its operations under such outstanding leadership of Ms. Nasreen Najimi, Mr. Mejia, and Ms. Kumamoto. I admire this particular training program in Afghanistan. You have been tackling the difficult task of supporting Afghanistan head-on. Over the years, you also expanded the mentoring system with highly motivated and capable alumni. The program has steadily produced positive results and has grown into one of the pillars of the reconstruction assistance programs that you focus on. Your initiatives have set a model for many other reconstruction assistance projects to follow. I believe that Nasreen and your colleagues, you have laid a foundation for subsequent reconstruction assistance projects. Speaking the local official language of Afghanistan, you have been undoubtedly popular and charming and have people involved, inspire, and support not only the trainees, but also many others you met in the whole process of program design, implementation, review, and evaluation. I'm convinced that this book will be read more widely in the future and counted as a foundation by many who seek recovery from conflicts. Once again, I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to everybody who's been involved with the Afghanistan Fellowship Program and UNITAR Hiroshima office as it celebrates its 20th anniversary, and my best wishes for its prospective future towards realization of peace and prosperity for all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nishizawa-san. I think I speak on behalf of everyone here, current, former UNITAR colleagues, all the mentors and resource persons. Thank you for the leadership and the support of the Hiroshima Prefecture. There are not very many donors like the Hiroshima Prefectural government who have provided the kind of continuity and confidence that you have had in the UNITAR Hiroshima office. The mere fact that we're still involved, that you are still involved and following this project after more than 20 years is an indication that this relationship was really very special and continues to be very special. So I think on behalf of all of us, thank you for that wisdom of the prefecture, and please continue to provide the support. Thank you so much.
So now we've come to the conclusion of session 1, and we'd like to start session 2.